Welcome back to the Central Podcasting Unit. My name's Noah. I'm here in office today with Liam.
What? Back
No,
at it again.
Yeah, no snarky remark this morning.
It's too early in the morning.
It is. We are recording this on Friday, which is weird because we normally do it on a Thursday.
Yeah, unfortunately, just kind of with how we're using our equipment, some of it had been pulled away, and we didn't have it with us till this morning.
Yeah, mainly just my headphones, so I couldn't monitor anything. So
at least he has headphones. You know, it was probably around episode 7. I was complaining about, I don't have headphones this week. Well, I haven't had headphones since, and I'm a little dead inside.
Hey. I need to hear us. You don't need to hear us.
Yes, I do. Do you know how wrong this is? How wrong this feels?
Yeah, take it up with HR.
I am HR. I've already taken it up. And I think, quite frankly, that we're going to have to let you go because it's not acceptable.
Great.
Not acceptable.
Thanks.
Right.
All right. Anyways, what were we talking about this morning?
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing.
Websites,
That's right.
SEO, and digital marketing. And you might be asking yourselves, wow, Liam and Noah, this is fantastic. What a fantastically boring, uninteresting topic that I don't listen to your podcast for. And to that I say, you're welcome.
Yeah. It is a little bit of a drier episode, but I would argue that there are some reasons for going over it, and it's ultimately, I hope it will be very interesting.
Yeah, so I think more so. So the Central Podcasting Unit is an interesting podcast in the sense of what we are trying to do, is what we're hoping to be, a technology podcast.
Yep.
But ultimately, really kind of at its core, we're the Basileus podcast, the business podcast. And sometimes that means that the stuff we're talking about is related more so to the business rather than technology. And I would argue digital marketing fits into technology to quite an extent, and we'll get into that.
Yep.
But ultimately, this is going to be a more business-centric episode because we, while not totally not doing those services anymore, we're beginning to step back from IT and focusing more on digital marketing.
Yeah. Just out of a necessity, and it's something that we feel people need.
Well, ultimately, kind of where the problem comes from, is that COVID smashed any demand that was in the market really for IT services.
Yeah.
And being a newer company with limited, I used to say no brand recognition, but there is some brand recognition now, and we talked about that in the 1-year anniversary episode.
Yep.
But being a company with very limited brand recognition. It's just very tricky, especially like, for example, to just give you guys some idea, we moved into the office that we have now 2 weeks before the state of Maine shut the economy down. So we quite literally have not had a chance, if you will, to do what we were hoping and planning to do.
Yeah.
And so that's just caused tons of problems with, in case in point, just even getting a sign in front of the building so people know where we are.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately it's just kind of, that's kind of what business is adapting to your surroundings. And some of these old companies, if you look back at what they did originally, they don't do anything close to what they do originally. I don't remember the name of the company, but there's one company and they made something stupid like, I don't know, soap, or maybe it was you know what I think it was, like what's it called? It kind of goes with soap, like the Arm & Hammer, like, you know what I'm talking about. I can't think of a name on it.
Baking soda?
Yeah, like
yeah,
baking
something
soda.
like
I don't
that.
know. They made baking soda, and I think they gave gum as like free to incentivize sales of the baking soda, but then they found the gum was more popular than the baking soda, and
So
now
they
it's
just
now it's a gum company.
That's funny.
I don't remember the exact name of the company, but that was just kind of the general story. So we're kind of at our point where ultimately COVID destroyed the demand for our core services, and it's a matter of survive and adapt, So
Yep.
we already do websites, we do SEO, and I would argue that we do a pretty darn good job. And if you want to check out kind of that job, I would check out on Monday end of the day Monday, what the Basileus website looks like, because the Basileus website is going to be getting its own. It's going to be getting a overhaul, if you will.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just kind of to adapt to the way that we're pivoting into the digital marketing side of things, but we rank very well SEO wise. We have a website that I would argue looks better than most websites for businesses our size.
Yeah, definitely.
In my humble opinion, so you have to be overly broad. Here's a little legal lesson for you, is when you're making statements, especially regarding other companies, the more specific you are, the bigger of a hole you dig for yourself for a defamation lawsuit. So I'm not going to name names, but just generally looking at some of the companies that service companies that we're looking at servicing for digital marketing, websites, and SEO, I think they're doing a really bad job.
Yeah. There are.
The prices are, in my opinion, somewhat extortionist.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to pay. You shouldn't have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for good marketing.
I mean, you should.
But
Don't get me wrong, but with the businesses
Yeah.
that we're working with, and I know because I've done this before personally.
Mhm.
I've run marketing for multiple companies before. One of which was an international organization, so that was really cool. I had a team of people around the world that worked under me.
That is pretty cool.
Somebody who I'm still working with to this day.
And is probably listening to this podcast right now.
Because he is an absolute unit.
Absolutely.
Absolute unit of a man. We'll probably have more to talk about him at a later date because we have an agreement with him. We do services with him, and we just haven't gotten around to advertising it yet. But hey, it's going to be an extension of digital marketing. So
absolutely,
more on that. So that's kind of why we're doing what we're doing. We're not just coming out here and saying, okay, we're going to do digital marketing starting from zero. We have a bit of a resume, if you will. You know what makes me really happy is after I stepped down from my position in that international organization, politics, when you're that high up in an organization.
Sure.
They didn't change anything I set in place.
So you made a lasting impact.
I guess so.
Yep.
I guess so. That was
That's how
cool.
you do it. That's how you do it, folks.
So what is it going to mean now that we're moving into digital marketing? What kind of is digital marketing? What's involved with that?
So digital marketing is a lot of making your brand recognizable. It's a lot of brand recognition.
Sure.
It's also a lot of how you appear to the public.
Sure.
So it's so you could almost call it PR. And I did some air quotes there. Of course, we're not on video.
You can't call it PR because as an intellectual who spent some extensive time working on this stuff, the difference between marketing and public relations, and again, this is just good general knowledge, is public relations obviously is managing your appearance to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of there is that aspect of it, but it's different than marketing. PR is much more overarching, bigger picture brand. But the other thing with public relations and PR is that a lot of it comes free. So,
sure.
Case in point, if I advertise we are doing this new service, I send out a press release and say some media outlets pick up on it, that's marketing. If I donate $100,000 to go save some kittens that were affected by fires, and media picks up on it on their own, that's kind of more PR. It's kind of that free press. And the benefit of that is people trust that more because they know it's not artificial and they know it's not fabricated. Even though the only reason you gave $100,000 was to fabricate that press. So, you know what I mean? But people trust that more. Which is one of the reasons why it's so important to kind of get involved with your community. So a lot of what we're doing is ultimately, I think, likely in regards to that public relations, is some consulting. And there's public relations that does have to be taken care of as part of digital marketing because, for example, you can have the best SEO in the world, you can have the best digital marketing in the world, but if somebody looks you up and they see a 1-star review and that's the only review somebody's left for you,
they're not going to want to use you. I mean,
so public relations is a huge aspect of that. Customer relations, that outreach, and so on and so forth. But marketing, if you will, is really the building of the brand.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not just building up a brand, but it's building up a community, of engagement. And, not to make you think any less of us, but that's what the Central Podcasting Unit's, one of its intentions is to build up engagement with the Basileus brand and continue and supplement the brand. Is we love technology, we want to do the podcast, but ultimately that's why we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Fundamentally was to build and extend upon our brand. And I tell people all the time, I was talking to somebody, I'm already an admin on their Facebook account, so I can see kind of analytics, and I'm like, in the last month, all we've really pushed was the Basileus merch, the 1 year anniversary, and 3-4 episodes of the Central Podcasting Unit. And I'm reaching, well over 1,000 people.
Yep.
And you're paying a company right now that's giving you regular content. Each of those posts have 1 like, if they get any, and you reach 20 to 30 people. And he's being charged heavily for that.
It's just, it's extortion.
Well,
it's not extortion, but it's not good. It's not good quality.
Because part of what the problem is that you have to market with a purpose.
Yeah.
You can't just put content out for the sake of putting content out. It has to have a purpose. And that's why, ultimately, we've been focused on running the business. So marketing has been something that I would admit that we've neglected a little more than we should.
Yeah.
But that's why we attempted things like running a weekly blog post or Tech Tip Tuesdays, dedicating Wednesdays to news, just having regular things so people kind of know what to expect, and they know they come to you for some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But also that regular posting, what it does for you is it gets your name out there. For example, so if I'm going to go buy a car and there's a car dealership that posts once a week and there's a car dealership that posts 5 times a week, well, if that car dealership that's posting 5 times a week isn't even posting about their products and buy cars from us here, I'm going to see their name way more often.
Yeah.
So when I go to buy a car, that's what's going to be in my head, is that dealership. So you just have so much benefits, and that's, to an extent, even on the IT side of things, is we post typically once to twice a week, and we post more than double of what our competition does because they post once to twice a month.
If that.
So it's just building a brand, and that's one of the reasons why our SEO has been so high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have we dedicated any time to actually talking about what SEO is?
I don't think so.
Why don't you do that?
Okay. So, we keep throwing around this term, SEO. So SEO stands for search engine optimization, and in the simplest terms possible, that just means that you're optimizing the content of your website to make your website look more attractive to search engines like Google and ultimately rank you up higher. It pushes you higher up the results because Google thinks that, oh, this is something that these people want to see higher up the results. So, that's why when you search up, computer repair near me in Auburn, Maine, that's why we rank high, because of our SEO.
Sure. Which says something considering how long most of our competition has been in the area. So yeah, SEO is very significantly important. A big part of SEO just in general is having a good website. And like I said, it's just a lot of websites are just bad.
They're just not they're not laid out intelligently, and they don't look good.
It's just a lot of websites are old. And then a lot of the websites that are newer, don't get me wrong, there's quite a few ones that even make us just take a seat back and go, whoa, because it's like a piece of art. But a lot of the modern sites, one of the things that I've seen a lot is that they're just kind of slapped together.
Yeah.
And they're more expensive than our websites. Can you believe that? Can you believe that?
No, I can't. Like, that's so... That's annoying.
If you're curious, by the way, it's $100 a page. Okay. $25 a month for hosting, which
Yep.
is next to nothing. And then $300 a month for SEO. But here's the thing. If you're going to get the SEO done, you just pay that $300 a month, and that covers the cost of getting a new website. So if you have a 20-page website, that would cost you $2,000 to get it done. But if you're going to get the SEO on it too, it's just covered as part of the $300 a month. You know? So there's an incentive and a half right there. You know, and you may be saying to yourself, you know, SEO, it sounds good, but $300 a month, you know, I'm not made of money. Why is that something I really care about? Hit him with the statistic, Noah. Hit him with it.
So, and this was a combination of everything, but after we had finished our, final SEO push, we saw a 1,000% increase in our organic search appearance, I believe, is what it was, which sounds like just a fantastical number, but it's true. Our organic search appearance was way up in the results, meaning that when people searched for computer repair near me, we showed up a lot more.
And one of the big things with that is it's not one of those things where we're just throwing out this 10 times 1,000% number and saying, oh, this can happen to you too. I mean, we've been in our location since March, and after that SEO push, that's when we started receiving walk-ins and receiving phone calls and walk-in unexpected clients, not businesses, but consumer clients.
Yeah, because ultimately, if your client doesn't know where you are or can't find you, they're not going to call you.
Exactly.
It's all about being there and being able to be seen.
And so with so many businesses in Lewiston, Auburn, which in my humble opinion have bad websites that are not SEO optimized very well, if optimized at all, just getting your SEO optimization, $300 a month, it's gonna pay for itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's such a good investment, especially if you're a business that's already somewhat established, and you're not the newest business in the world, and you can afford that. I mean, it is such a good deal. I think, if we were paying $300 a month, we would have actually already recouped that expense with the money we've made.
Absolutely.
From walk-in clients.
Absolutely.
That we've gained from that SEO. So I can reliably and comfortably say that it's a worthwhile investment because we've seen the positive impacts here.
Yep.
I mean, we really have.
Yeah. SEO, very, very important to your business.
So you guys might be listening to the podcast, and if you're still listening at this point, you might be bored out of your mind. You might be saying, okay, well, this hurts me on a spiritual level. Ultimately, because Noah and I sound a little dead inside, but I'm going to be real with you guys. It's a hard time to be a business owner right now.
Yeah.
And we're both really feeling that. And ultimately, kind of what it is, dealing with COVID and the reality of the business scene, it's difficult to be in this position, but we feel confident that we can persevere kind of with this new digital marketing approach, SEO, designing websites, but also, social media marketing, purposeful social media marketing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Ultimately, what people care about are people over brands, and there are statistics to back that up, which I've gone over very briefly, I know, in another podcast episode. Of course, naturally, I didn't write down or bring any of the sources with me, but I do know that there are sources to back that up. And ultimately, just kind of highlighting the people in the business, right? When you're going to go buy a car, think about how different it's going to be if you go to a dealership and you already know who the salesmen are.
Yeah, it just makes such a big difference. It feels like you're already home essentially.
Exactly. It's just you're building that client relationship before the client even comes into the door.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things with Basileus is ultimately the brand isn't just Basileus Technology Solutions. The brand is Liam and Noah, and that was an intentional decision. So kind of spreading that and helping people with that, because that's what people need right now. People care about that.
Absolutely.
Big corporations, big nameless, faceless corporations. That's not the way that marketing's going. That's not the way that consumer behavior is going, but ultimately we're looking at making this pivot, for our business. But at the end of the day, we're looking to help other businesses, and we intentionally called the company Basileus Technology Solutions because I would argue that something like this fits under technology.
Absolutely.
And
it
really
definitely does.
helping businesses in all aspects of their technology, whether it's digital or physical. That's what we're here to do.
Yep.
So, again, more of a boring episode.
Unfortunately.
Noah's bored out of his mind.
Oh my God, I did not want to talk about this, but we definitely needed to.
Unfortunately, it's just one of those things where we're in a position right now where we are just working very hard. We have 7-day work weeks up ahead for probably the next month.
I don't want to talk about
it. It's brutal, but at the end of the day, that is business, and you got to do what you got to do. And even if that means, putting kind of your dream operation on hold and doing what you need to survive, that's business. Don't. It's funny enough because I was thinking about it. I think about, me. I've been known to have a little ego, and so I think about 3-4 years now after I graduate, I get invited back to school to give a speech to some of the students, right? Mm-hmm. What do I tell those students? And so initially you think tell them not to give up, but I would argue it's just as important to give up, because when you don't give up, you're pushing what could, and by the time you're very seriously considering giving up, unless of course you're a word I'm not going to say in the podcast, but by the time, you've been thinking about giving up for a long time, you don't think you're going to be able to persevere. If you keep pushing through, are you going to be able to persevere? No. Your heart's not in it. You know that it's the wrong decision to make. But if you give up, you can shed not the weight per se, but you can kind of get back some of your adaptability, your flexibility, and you can do what we're doing and shifting and surviving. Because if we hadn't given up, Basileus would be dead.
Yep.
So don't give up at the core, but know when to give up as well.
I guess not give up, but know when to change. Know when to adapt.
Sure.
Yeah, that's probably a better way of putting it.
But ultimately, you and I have had the conversation. It feels like a breakup. It feels like the end of the road. It has that gut-wrenching feeling.
It does. It does.
So in many ways, it feels like giving up, even when you're making the best decision.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, that was my TED Talk. That's all. I have no idea where we're at with the time. We didn't even start a clock today. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things
about it
where...
for time, though.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's a hectic time right now. We care about the Central Podcasting Unit. We care about you guys. What I will say is stay tuned for next week, because there's going to be a lot of changes coming to the Central Podcasting Unit as an extension of building that brand. Ultimately, we started the Central Podcasting Unit. We enjoy doing the Central Podcasting Unit.
Yep.
But we haven't taken the opportunity to realize the full potential of the Central Podcasting Unit. So you'll start noticing some of that stuff.
Jeez, can you say Central Podcasting Unit anymore?
The Central Podcasting Unit.
I think that's going to do it for us today, folks. This has been Noah and Liam in the office today, as usual. And we will see you next time.
Godspeed, y'all. Talk to you next week.
Bye.